But just make sure that you fly into Jordan or fly into Egypt and you bus in. That way they can't send you home, or if they're gonna lock you up, at least you get to go back and still have some kind of vacation. There's 100 different things I could talk about. I was able to see a lot. If you have questions about the law, if you have questions more about Gaza, one last thing. So the rockets. I was talking about this with Elia. If you hear about rockets being shot into Ashkelon, Ashkelon's right here. It's an extremely dangerous Zionist community. They also fire rockets back. They don't really talk about that in the papers, but they do. Both sides, both people in Gaza, the majority of rockets that are being fired out are coffee cans with munitions inside them exhaust pipes. And so these are homemade rockets with little soldered wings on. They shoot them over. They're terribly inaccurate. They're very dangerous. It's obviously, of course, it's a bad idea to be shooting rockets in any fashion. But if you're interested, the majority of rockets, they're called El Qassam rockets. You can look them up on Wikipedia for pictures or blueprints of what an El Qassam rocket looks like. And those are being shot out. They're not being shot out. Some people want to destroy Israel. It's very, very true. Many Israelis want to destroy every single Palestinian, genocide all the way. Not genocide, ethnocide. But majority of these people, Hamas was democratically elected in 2006 to both West Bank and to Gaza, and Hamas said, you know what? If we take power in both of them, we're gonna have a civil war because the old party, the party of Yasser Arafat, Fatah, even though we were democratically elected to govern both Gaza and West Bank, if we take power in West Bank, all those old Yasser Arafat fans, it's gonna be civil war. We'll stay in Gaza, and in 2010 we'll have another election, and then we'll go in West Bank. Well, there's definitely a lot of popular support. Fatah sucked. Yasser Arafat ripped off millions and millions of dollars from Palestinian people. People wanted change. A lot of very non-religious people voted for Hamas, which is a very religious party, because they're not corrupt. There's no corruption within Hamas. That's what's rumored. There's rumored to be no corruption against Hamas. They take this stuff very seriously, and so they get a lot of popular support. I would probably not have voted for them. There's a book right there on Hamas. You're welcome to check it out. It's really good. So they're democratically elected. Think of Hamas as you might think of the Democratic Party. There's Democrats that are Joint Chiefs of Staff, rich, lifetime military guys. There's some that are high school teachers that smoke bud and tell their kids lots of hippie stories and stuff. The difference within the Hamas movement is very vast. You have a lot of non-religious people in Hamas. You have a lot of public servants. I think a third of the people who have been killed so far have been Hamas public servants, so traffic cops, just general, police officers, public officials. The other third have been children. Children death toll right now is about 300 or 400. Up until this recent Gaza incident, since 2000, between 2000 and 2008, 956 children have been killed. There's currently 450 children within, they're in detention centers with no right to a lawyer. That's what's kind of going on with that situation. So I know it's kind of bleak. I know it's kind of sad to hear about. I know you guys look like you're super excited right now. But guess what? There's people within Israel that secretly, I was in a bike club that met Wednesday nights. We rode our bikes around Jerusalem, and one of them, the guy's like, "What are you doing here? What are you really doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm here, just doing some research on youth stuff." And he's like, "You doing human rights?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, guess what? I have my kids in a Arab-Israeli school, and it's like a forced integration school, so they can grow up together and learn from each other. Why don't you come over for dinner?" I go over for dinner at his house. He's great. His kids love it. The kids are speaking Arabic, and they're totally Jewish, totally Israeli. There's definitely people that are trying to make a difference. There's a lot of hippies in Israel. A lot of hippies that are very all the settler youth kids, the kids that are really in the violent, militant. I would say the closest thing I can describe them is Klan youth. They're all hippies. They all listen to Bob Marley. A lot of them grow their own marijuana. They have the majority of organic produce in Israel and the surrounding countries is grown by these settler kids.
This is a nice segue to a question I wanted to bring up, which is, as I listen to your amazing account of the situation, it seems like so much of the strife and hatred and misunderstanding stems from scarcity, the context of scarcity. And For me, one of the most amazing ways to address that is permaculture.
Yeah.
I know there's some pretty amazing permaculture projects in the area, including one in Jordan where what was really saline desert is now 20-foot jungle, basically, with no imported water and no water from the water table. What's happening with the permaculture movement in the area?
So there's this big thing called the kibbutz movement, kibbutzim, and there are these communes. When Israel was first getting started, before it actually existed, 1920s, 1930s, the majority of the people that went were working class people from Eastern Europe. If you're working class in Eastern Europe, 1920, guess what? You're probably a socialist, a communist, an anarchist, something of that nature. And so they started these little cooperative, community-based groups. They're really exclusive. They used to be really exclusive, and they're complete permaculture societies that have existed for about, some of them are 100 years old. Permaculture, the term permaculture is being used to apply to a lot of these, and it's taking over. Just another segue, if you have any Jewishness in you whatsoever, please go on Birthright. Birthright is a free trip sponsored by the state. It's very, very creepy and misinformation oriented. My friend's making a documentary called Misinformation of Birthright, but it's a free trip that the Israeli government sponsors to get kids to go in. Well, if you can either convert to Judaism or find that old relative that's Jewish and go on this trip, go take their 10-day state-sponsored tour, just study up ahead of time, keep your mouth shut, then you can go visit all permaculture places, or you can go throw rocks and whatever you want to do, and you get a free ticket there, and it's a pretty good way to see things. So yeah, there's a lot of people within, a lot of hippies, a lot of people that are working towards progression, but they don't really see it. They don't really see that the whole Palestinian-Israeli issue as a progressive issue, as a human rights-based issue. Like maybe my last words on the subject before we just break into this all discussion, unless you guys have more questions. What was it? So right now, when I was actually in Palestine, Australia, they recognized the plight of the Aborigines. They recognized that Australians had colonized, that they had colonized the Aborigine land, and that they destroyed much of the Aborigine culture, and it was a first step towards a peace process over there. So far that hasn't happened. I think it's an amazing first step. Like Hamas, you've heard, I'm sure, the newspaper, that they're dedicated to the destruction of Israel. Just about every single promise that Palestinians have been given by the United States or by Israel has been broken. A recognition would be a great first step. A recognition of the whole colonization process, not just that. And after that, man, who knows what could happen. The United States, from my understanding, should have no role in it whatsoever. Elias is one of my closest friends. If Elias steals from, what was your name, man? Yeah. Graham. If Elias steals from Graham, or if Elias beats up your brother or whatever, I would be a very partial judge. I know and love him. I don't really know you that well. I have this long legacy of being friends with him. You can obviously guess, as the United States, you would do a very impartial job. Let's leave this to somebody else, France, the UN, anybody, preferably a third world country with having a similar history would probably work better. You can still write your congressperson, all that kind of stuff. And also too, something that Michael brings up, everybody, like, you leave this room, if you're talking about this